on. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What's Good in Gansett. Today, we have Dr. Greg Altman, the CEO of Evolved by Nature, and we have my husband, Mike Pimentel, a consultant for Evolved by Nature. Welcome to the show, guys. I'm so excited, and welcome, Greg. A special welcome to you.
Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I know we just met like a couple. It's always funny because I just a few seconds beforehand. Greg, I am so excited. We are so pumped to have you today. You tell us a little bit about your what Evolved by Nature is and what you do and all the cool things that you've done beforehand. Give us the whole background.
Sure. Evolved by Nature is a chemical company, and we make chemicals out of natural silk protein. So what we're trying to do and the mission behind Evolved by Nature is to actually advance the world's health. And so my business partner and co-founder, Dr. Rebecca Lacouture, and I, we come from the medical biotech space, and we've moved into consumer and personal goods because we wanted to try to have a much larger impact on public health and improving the lives of these consumer products come in contact with. So we're essentially a green version of DuPont.
That's awesome. I'm so excited because what you do for our community, especially right now, like not only are you offering a service and a product that we need and we use every day, multiple times a day, you just give back so much as this is a nonprofit. Like, tell us a little bit before we get into like what activated silk is and like all the products that you have, like what is that the giving back program that you guys have as well?
Sure. So we're a chemical manufacturer up in Walpole and Medford, Massachusetts, and our goal right now is to eliminate harsh and unnecessary and usually hidden chemicals in products like skincare, hair care, a lot of chemicals that go into the clothing that we wear against our skin. And even on random textiles like leather that you might find in your backpack or purse. And so our goal was to replace those chemicals with the use of natural silk protein. And when COVID hit, our manufacturing facility was basically in a state of flux. We were not able to source the equipment we needed to produce the silk. And what we found, like many other companies, was just a tremendous need for hand sanitizer and PPE. So we're both chemists and manufacturers. And so what we're really talking about today is, frankly, our shift into what was at the early stages of COVID, a 100% donation program called Helping Hands.
Wow.
And so we basically suited up. Because we came from the medical community, we knew how to wear head to toe PPE, and we started making hand sanitizer and donating it to those most in need. And I think, like we've all found out, we first thought it was hospitals and nurses and frontline responders like firemen and women. But we very quickly realized there was a need in nursing homes, and then there was a need in towns and cities. And so that's the Helping Hands program that basically launched our foray into hand sanitizer.
That's incredible. And it's so cool that you guys are you were already, like you said, you come from the medical field, so you were just able to jump on that and start helping the communities that really needed it. I love that so much about about your company is it's all about community and giving back. And we both really love it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about you mentioned activated silk and you also mentioned harmful chemicals. So we can I guess my first two questions is what is activated silk? And the other one is definitely the number one question I've gotten off of Instagram because people knew we were having you as a guest is how to know what chemicals are bad to stay away from.
Sure. So we'll talk about the chemical list we can look at on hand sanitizer in a minute, but activated silk is very simply the natural silk protein dissolved in water. And the reality is that doesn't exist anywhere else in society today except for inside the silkworm before they spin the silk cocoon. So if you think about silk, it's really nature's form of plastic. And so all we have been doing is bioharvesting the silk cocoon, for all of the chemical diversity hidden inside the sequence of the silk protein. And so we're basically harvesting different parts of that protein that can do different things. And so, I'll give you one example. In certain instances, we can create a silk protein that can penetrate the skin and help skin cells produce more collagen. And so we started in skincare in 2014, creating skincare for men and women going through chemotherapy, uh,
Wow.
and the idea of healing skin. And now we have a protein that we call 33B, and that protein can actually heal and seal the skin. And so moving to hand sanitizer, that's what we actually put in our formula. So we have ethanol, water, activated silk 33B, and a natural thickening agent called hydroxycellulose. So very simple formula designed to, cleanse the skin, and basically designed to heal and seal the skin. Because we realized we were donating to nurses, frontline responders that were using it dozens of times a day, going home with cracked and bleeding hands.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't very fun.
No.
One of them.
I
Back
was
in
one of
March in the
them.
weight room, nonstop, nonstop, nonstop.
Yeah, you just like bend your hand, especially when it's like cold, or even if you're out in the sun. I just feel like every time I use this stuff, my hands are so moisturized. It's the most insane thing.
No, that's one of the the only caution that we have to say is please don't put Evolve by Nature hand sanitizer in your face, because a lot of people want to use it as
Oh
a
yeah.
moisturizer.
Oh yeah. Cleansing, moisturizing.
Yeah. To get to some of the behind the scenes for customers though, one of the things that we realized was a lot of hand sanitizers use agents like glycerin and aloe and a few other ingredients to mix with ethanol. And what we were realizing was some of these agents can actually get in the way of ethanol's ability to kill the germs and viruses that we need killed. And so part of our mission was to actually clean out the formula. No pun intended. So the goal was, how do we find the simplest formula that will not impede ethanol? And today we have kill data that says we kill 99.99% of germs and viruses that we test against. And that's because it's the simplicity of what we call clean and green formulations.
Wow. And it's like you said, Mike, it's 4 ingredients.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
wild.
And water and silk are 2 of them. So it's pretty good.
That's pretty, and you can actually read them, you can understand them, you can pronounce them. I just think that's so, what were you gonna say, Mike?
I was just gonna ask one thing, Greg. So like me dealing with people and like introducing the hand sanitizer and the liter and 10-ounce pump. But anyway, people put it on their hands, they feel it, they're like, that's nothing I've ever felt before. Seriously, you'll find out.
Right.
But the other thing is immediately just the scent, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing all these other kind of hand sanitizers on the market. Like I was in a store the other day and there was a whole entire aisle full of lavender, like hand sanitizer. And it was like just fragrance this, fragrance that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think part of what consumers need to understand is you cannot sell just straight ethanol into hand sanitizer. So it has to be denatured. And where we're getting into trouble, and you're seeing some of the reports of massive numbers of brands being pulled off the market, is we're not necessarily creating the purest form of ethanol, and then we're adding a denaturing agent because you don't want anyone to drink hand sanitizer. So the denaturing agents typically smell, frankly, like a gas stop. It's really quite potent. So what we do is we add more chemicals to mask the chemicals that are already in formulas. So you'll see formulas with synthetic fragrances. You'll see formulas like lavender, which is a natural essential oil. But the problem is it's a scent to mask a scent, and that's where the risk comes in. I think the biggest watch out right now is to just look for hand sanitizer manufactured in the USA. And if it smells bad, to truly trust your nose and stop using it.
Oh, really? So the number one thing is, like you said, made in the USA, and if it smells bad?
If I would say made in the USA is one sign of quality that you should look for. And if frankly, anything you're using smells bad, you should just stop using it. So
Yeah.
we've been in a situation right now with some ethanol suppliers where, because we're chemists, we can actually test the ethanol ourselves for impurities. And we test for impurities at 300% the level that the FDA requires. And we've been dealt what I would consider to be fraudulent, what we call certificates of analysis, saying the ethanol is pure, but it's actually not. It contains paint thinner, methanol, and a host of other chemicals. So you have to watch out, and you have to look for companies and brands that you trust.
So Evolve by Nature is FDA
Registered. The product is FDA registered.
Wow.
The facility is FDA registered. And frankly, even to that extent, it's a high bar, but we try to go even a little bit further ourselves.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You see a lot of the, I saw a lot of the like the labels on some hand sanitizers. Just when when after all of this hit and we're like, okay, we really need to use this, like reuse it multiple times every day. And you see, a lot of companies that have their ingredients labels. What are some ingredients that, like, if you see it, you should like run for the hills type of thing? Are there those types of ingredients that?
Sure. Well, it depends on your personal stance. So there are ingredients that you should never put on your skin. Some are referred to as basically additional antiseptics. So if you see the active ingredient being something other than ethanol, then it is usually an ingredient designed to kill bugs and viruses. Usually those ingredients are the equivalent of like insecticides and pesticides. So there's one ingredient called BZK you want to avoid. And what most people don't know is, in order to be FDA registered, you could use 62% ethanol, and then you can make up the kill power by adding additional ingredients like BZK. So you want to avoid BZK if you see it on the back label. Then, here's the biggest thing. If I could tell you why we're now passionate about hand sanitizer, was household use was going from 20% to 70% in the US, right? And there are thickening agents inside the hand sanitizer that are commonly referred to as acrylates. And so what people need to know is, if you see acrylate on the back label and it's a gel, you basically have a liquid form of plastic. And so that plastic is safe against your skin, but here's the problem. We're now pouring liquid plastic down the drain at a rate that, frankly, the ecosystem was never designed to handle, number one. And then number two, the upstream process to produce that is actually quite a toxic process. So it depends if you care about yourself first and foremost, yes. And then if you care about the environment and the wastewater and the oceans, you've got to get that stuff out of hand sanitizer. And frankly, it's in pretty much every hand sanitizer that is a gel formula.
And especially living in a place like we live here, like we're in the ocean multiple times a day.
Right.
And you take a look at how many people are in the water with you. And I mean, we've recently, in the past couple of years, started really paying attention to sunscreen. That wasn't even a thought. Like, yes, perfume, yes, skincare, but for some reason I never quite thought of sunscreen, probably because we didn't really wear it a lot since we didn't live at the beach. But now that we live here, we're like, wow, okay, not only are you putting this on your skin, but you're also dipping it into the ocean. And it makes a tremendous amount of sense. It really, really does.
Sunscreen, now it's hand sanitizer. There's obviously a host of others, but I think the key is if what we use can be effective and then it can go down the drain and biodegrade in the water system, like that's a win-win. I think that, the last point is, I don't know about you, but like even going for takeout and coming home, like we're now eating the hand sanitizer. So like, even if like the liquid plastic isn't harmful to your skin, you're eating it. And unless you wash your hands, and then we're washing our hands more, and that's a different story and a different podcast.
Yeah. No, this makes so much. And so Evolve by Nature is biodegradable, meaning if it, God forbid, you drop some on the grass or it's okay. It's perfectly safe for the environment.
Absolutely. It's safe for the ocean, safe for the waterways. Yes, absolutely.
So would you say, Caitlin's, golf pro, she's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But being on the golf course, that's something like places like that need to be
Yeah.
conscientious of now, is like everybody's using this stuff. And again, it's getting into their greens. Costs and fees go up, right?
Yeah, I think right now it's just a matter of being a good citizen, right? You're sweating on it, you're sweating through it, you're dropping it off your hands wherever you are.
Yep.
It's just something you want to be aware of, and in all seriousness, it's something that we need to use now to keep ourselves safe, right? So the question is, why does safety have to risk the safety of the things around us? And it doesn't any longer.
It's like all in one product.
Let me ask you this, Greg. So I remember a couple months back, we were sitting in, it was after I trained your son, and we were talking about methanol.
Yeah.
And the process of that and how you can go blind. And it's actually like people's vision has gone blurred. It's been in, obviously in the news, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget. I have a love for organic chemistry, and that's what basically saw my way through college. If it wasn't for organic chemistry, I don't think I would have passed. To be serious, so that's a different podcast on the advantages of dyslexia. But anyway, moral of the story is, I'll never forget the lesson where, if you purify ethanol, you'll actually never get 100% ethanol. There always needs to be a small amount of water or something else in the solution. And so the reality is you have methanol or you have another denaturant. And so what has happened is you have ethanol fuel supplies in our system. When we stopped driving cars, we had the availability of ethanol that was distilled once, but it wasn't distilled again to get rid of that methanol or that acetone and some of the other contaminants. So what happened was lower quality ethanol made its way into the hand sanitizer business, not only in the US, but around the world. And then people rushed to place orders, and now we're stuck with a surplus of this stuff. And it's very difficult to tell if the contaminant is there or not, which is why I was saying earlier, you really need to trust your nose.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay, got ya. That makes a lot of sense.
So like being an FDA registered product, like, so you look at the nutrition like industry is very, very crooked in the sense of like, if, we have a bottle and it says it's a drug or having therapeutic value, the FDA doesn't really regulate how much or what you're putting in there.
Right.
We're kind of saying the same thing for hand sanitizer.
To a certain extent, as you could tell, the FDA is trying to crack down. The FDA just called us a couple days ago to ask what we're doing with our formulas. So for us, we're realizing that even brands today that we might have heard about or recognize on the store shelf, they might have sourced contaminant ethanol, right? So at Evolve by Nature, all we can do is we make available our test certificates and our data. To basically show that we test every lot of ethanol that comes into our facility. We prove its purity, and we prove that it's contaminant free. And so, in a way, I know, Mike, you and I, we've gotten really passionate about kids, schools, daycares. Like, to me, it's now turned into a public service mission where, our kids hopefully will go back to school at some point in time. And when they do, I just don't want anything I don't trust on their hands, and then in their bodies.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a big thing I almost feel guilty about, in the sense of, here I am being a health and fitness professional for like, the past 16 years of my life. Eat good, sleep well, take care of my body, de-stress. She got me into meditating. But when you think about training and performance or just everyday life, stress is what brings you down.
Right.
By just us essentially rubbing more stress into our body, another toxin, like, you just don't think of those things that can hinder performance, such as your vision or whatever. You know what I mean? Just things like that. Like, that's all new to me. And I think that's the biggest piece of this company, is just providing all of the education. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's endless and it's simple. Like, I need user friendly.
Unfortunately, you have to look at it this way. There's about $6 trillion of petrochemicals sold around the world each year. And those chemicals, to a large part, we're wearing, but to a smaller degree, but almost more significance from a health perspective, they're around us all the time. And so Evolve by Nature really, has started to go after the hidden, undisclosed use of chemicals. And, when you look at hand sanitizer, I've looked at the back of those labels. I knew what acrylate was. I didn't know that we used the poisonous gas necessarily to produce it, right? So So we're all learning at the same time, and needs come along, and you start to focus where you could do the most good. That's what we've been doing.
Wow. Now, what are some other so I know Mike was telling me too, like you not only have you just partnered or you just do hand sanitizer, you've also partnered with other companies to help clean up, not things, but clean up what things are made of. Like, can you tell us a little bit about what that relationship looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chanel is one of our investors. They're obviously the beauty, perfume, and fashion company. Uh,
Awesome.
in terms of what we've been able to learn from them is what's going on in the leather industry, what's going on in the wool industry. So for the longest time, I don't, you guys are probably a little too young to remember, but I remember you can never put wool anywhere near a washing machine. Now, all of a sudden, how do we have wool socks that we could throw in the wash? Well, it's because we have wool socks coated in plastic, right? And so the point is the plastic helps to resist the shrinking, right? And unfortunately, the production of that plastic and the application to wool is toxic. So it's like, how do we replace the hidden undisclosed use of these chemicals? So, the famous black legging, right? The famous, performance tee that we've had since, truly Under Armour invented it, right? How does it work? Well, we add wicking agents and chemicals on top of the fabric to pull the sweat, away from our bodies through the fabric and then evaporate. So we tend to, find uses for chemicals that really are against our body and against our skin, that we never signed up for. So that's what we're after.
You don't even think about it. Like you
Never.
don't even think. Honestly, I never thought. I thought about the laundry detergent that we use,
Yeah.
but I never thought about the actual clothing. Like, okay, what is in this? And it's just constantly on my skin. And then you sweat it. Yeah, like coming from because I mean, not all, Mike's been in the fitness industry, but I've also been in the fitness industry for a long time, and like we sweat in our clothes every day. Every day.
Well, what about even Greg? Yoga pants, right? Aren't those extremely toxic pants as well?
You know what happens, and here's the problem. A lot of this chemistry is designed to feel good at the point of sale, and then it's either coming off on you or it's coming off in our washing machines, it brings us right back to the same issue with hand sanitizer. What's going down our drains, and what's going into our food supply, and what's coming back to us, right? And so we got to look at the entire system.
What other, are there any like brands, if you will, that that you really recommend for people who are looking into like sustainable, non-toxic clothing? Like where do people look?
It's tough, right? Because there are, and here's the challenge. I'll answer your question directly in a minute with one answer that I do know. But it's really tough because you're a brand and you have a really cool design and a concept. So what happens? So you go to a mill and you say, dear mill, I'd like this fabric, to meet this, style and design and tech pack, right? And then the mill has to meet that tech pack. And sometimes the mill's fabric can't. So the mill calls the chemical company and says, look, I need a solution to make this feel better or brighter or, wash longer. The chemical company shows up with a barrel of chemistry that solves that problem. And where the problem lies is that no one has to ever disclose what's in that barrel. So there are trade secret protections that ensure that you never have to disclose your proprietary chemical formulation. Gotcha. And so most brands who seek to be the very, very best can't actually get access to complete transparency in their own supply chain. But to specifically answer your question, I'll tell you this: Nike, from day one, right, even in the 80s, has done very well. And I know the dry fit fabric is pure polyester, and they really work hard not to use any coating agents on their dry fit line.
Wow, that's really great to know.
I don't know how that works, right? But I'm not connected with Nike or an endorser of Nike. I'm just
it's just one of those things. And like brands like Chanel, it's really nice to know that, like, because not like your skincare,
Right.
that bag that you wear every single day that's against your shoulder and that's rubbing up against like, you know, your clothing. It's so true. It's like so true.
Yeah, I think there are some leader brands that understand they've got to do the right thing, not only for them, their employees, their mill partners, but you know, but it's part of their ethos. So there's good brands out there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Kind of like shifting gears back to Evolve by Nature. One thing that I really loved, and Mike, I know you really love it too, is before we would have to buy like multiple, we'd go to the grocery store and we'd buy like 20 things of
22-ounce bottles every time we could.
Yeah.
And not that we were hoarding it. We were, this is
Yeah.
pre-COVID. Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We would go it because we'd always buy it in bulk because we always needed it because we're at the gym, we're wiping down our phones, like
3 dogs.
our water bottle, like we just always needed it. But then we started realizing, wow, we're gonna have to really use a lot of this stuff, and we're just constantly throwing the plastic in the recycling bin.
Yeah.
And it's just so much. And since moving here, we're like, wow, okay, the ocean is like our home now. Like we have to really protect this thing. And something that's really cool about Evolve by Nature is you can pour this stuff into a bottle, let it sit, right? And then it cleans inside the bottle, then you can just keep reusing it. That part I'm obsessed with because it's less plastic and it's less hassle. It's so awesome.
You know, packaging's a huge issue for everyone, and people are deeply passionate about it, right? But you've probably seen those, you know, TikTok and YouTube videos where you could, you know, dissolve a can of Coke and then you find the plastic bag inside the aluminum, right? And so what we really decided to do here was everything that we have is refillable. And more importantly, we picked high density polyethylene bottles. That's #2 plastic, and it's really the only plastic in the US that still has a really solid and reproducible recycling process. So today, unfortunately, even though we throw a lot of stuff in the recycling bin, it doesn't get recycled. So if you want to talk about a complete story, those bottles will eventually get turned into your yoga pants. And then the point is when they get turned into your yoga pants in the form of recycled polyester, we hope to recoat it again there with silk. And then we have some other technology that hopes to keep, you know, those pants never from ever going into the trash. And so we can continue to reuse them and reuse them. So yeah, we try to think about the whole system. And in this case, it's a plastic bottle, but the key is how do we use a material that could be used as much as possible? Versus there's a lot of aluminum and really nice packaging, but what people don't know is there's a plastic liner inside that aluminum that will never get recycled. So that's some of the challenge. Yeah, no, it's pervasive to say the least.
That's wild. What were you gonna say, Mike?
I just had one thing about Beck, who we haven't mentioned yet. Your co-founder, your partner.
Yeah, yeah.
So I recently just met Beck for the first time. She was a very, very nice lady. Hi, Beck.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think the listeners would love to hear is how did you two meet? And I mean, how did the idea really just kind of come about? You know what I mean?
Well, that's probably an hour-long podcast. Make a long story short, I met her my first year as a graduate student at Tufts, and she was a first-year freshman at Tufts. And I was her TA, and I failed her. And she hated me and wanted to prove to me that she was smarter than, you know, a meathead offensive lineman. So she asked to work in the lab, and it's been a very polite and respectful competition ever since. So that was probably 20 years ago. But in 2013, and we've been working together ever since. But I think, you know, the fun part of the story, you know, is that she really handles all of the engineering, all of the regulatory. So she handles everything that requires a line and staying inside of it, right? Or a box. And I handle, you know, just trying to paint outside of those lines. And it's been this perfect like left brain, right brain match ever since. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. You guys have been working together.
Yeah, since we were children. Yes.
Long time.
Long time.
That's tough. That's I only know my grandfather worked with his partner for probably, I don't know, decades. I feel like you don't really hear that too often. Like two best friends, the two friends working. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. And she can tell her own story, and she does if you look her up. But I think she was like Inc. magazine, top 500 female entrepreneur, Boston 40 under 40. But evolved by nature. I'll tell you the founder story really quick. I needed her brains to figure out how to put silk into liquid. So I needed her to build the manufacturing process. And she basically said, I'll do it, but only if we start in skincare for those going through chemotherapy. So she's a cancer survivor at the age of 27. So that's how we got our start in skincare. So
Wow.
that's this brand called Silk Therapeutics, which has been around for a while. It's a niche brand, but it's ultra clean and has a really nice following. But that's how we got started, trying to clean up skincare. And then we started realizing what we had in the form of activated silk. It wasn't one molecule, but it was actually thousands. And so that's basically how what I would say our green chemistry company started.
Wow. So you went from skincare, then starting to go into like clothing and leather
Yeah.
and then
So,
it.
yeah, I'll tell you a fun story. Rachel Dow was our general manager of skincare at the time, and she was also a core power yoga fitness instructor. And she had very pale skin, and she was saying, like, can you make me a body spray, because when I'm done training at like 6 a.m, like my legs are bright red. And we didn't know at the time how to make a body spray, so we're like, listen, why don't we just coat the inside of your pants so like you're wearing the moisturizer that we make. And what you need to know about silk is that in liquid form, silk will stick to anything because it wants to polymerize, it wants to form bonds with other things. And we could not get silk to stick to the inside of Rachel's yoga pants, which was like, well, what the hell is on the inside of Rachel's yoga pants? And that basically launched our business in textiles. We
Oh,
started discovering like a half a dozen chemicals being used to coat the fabric that we're wearing every day. And so if we're cleaning up skincare, then we should clean up the fabric that also touches our skin. So that's really the launch of the company.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool that you stumbled upon that little
Oh yeah.
information. Oh, that's very cool.
Well, if you look at what we're doing, we knew nothing about hand sanitizer in April, right? And we didn't understand that it was in a way of a public health hazard in high use volumes. And so that's why we're getting excited about doing hand sanitizer now.
I love and that's exactly why I love this company, because it's high use. We went
Yeah.
from using it, I don't know, probably, I mean, we use it every day, but like not all day, every day. It's like every time you touch a pen, every time you go to the store, every time you're putting it on your phone, we just use it all day, every day. And it just makes you think like, wow, we really have to know our skin's our biggest organ, what is going in it, on it, around it. It's just, it's so great to hear. Like we're just so grateful that you started in hand sanitizer. You ventured your way over there, because I don't know what our knuckles would look like right now.
What's really funny is I was training Greg, his son, one Saturday, and he came in, and I remember we couldn't find hand sanitizer anywhere. We were down to like liquid soap, and I hate soap, like I'm a foam soap type of guy. And, you came in with that gallon, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Gallon of hand sanitizer, and it was the largest quantity of hand sanitizer I've ever seen in my life. And I think that's the coolest thing now for me, is like being able to help with the Helping Hands program, like showing up to Bradley Hospital last week with like gallons, liters, and pump tops. Like people actually need this stuff. And like you said, being compatible with different plastic, I think people need to understand that's kind of the coolest thing, is where, us living by the ocean, our neighbor Kevin does beach cleanups all the time. Last week, he collected 600 pounds of trash. Right. A lot of it plastic, but the point is you can just keep buying gallons of this stuff and just repour right. Instead of buying and going, throwing away. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a much
I don't know about you, but my household use of hand sanitizer has gone down, but I now keep it in the car because wherever I go, as soon as I get in the car, whatever I touched, that's to me something that I just want to keep my hands clean and the product that I touch clean as well. So
Yeah, no, I like the fact I put this right in my car door or in the center console.
I wear
it's a nice size to fit. Yeah.
Great car holder.
Yeah.
we each do have a pump top, like right in our little, like where you put like a cup of coffee in the cup
Right,
holder.
exactly. Just make sure you don't drink this, but
Yeah,
you're good.
I mean, it's great. It's a great product. I love it. And just, I think it's just more special with helping hands and kind of what we're doing. The fact that we're able to give back to everyone. Like, Greg, I mean, like, I've only been consulting with you for such a short while, but I mean, I think listeners and even Caitlin, you haven't heard everywhere, but what are some places that you've had a lot of fun with, like, being involved in the donations yourself? Like, you're there giving, you're not just sending a team there. The CEO showing up is pretty cool, you know?
Oh man, I think well, it's hard to pick, right? Because we've donated a lot to hospitals and nursing homes, and that means a lot. A lot of first responders. But for me, the two was actually the city of Chelsea in Massachusetts. In the middle of the crisis, had a real need, and what most people don't connect was a lot of the folks that live in Chelsea are actually the ones that were keeping the hospitals running, keeping the food supply running, delivering food. And these folks were also on the front lines, and they didn't have a hospital necessarily behind them to back them up. So donating to the city of Chelsea meant a lot to me. And then more in Rhode Island, which was started and created to help support undocumented immigrants in Rhode Island, founded I think out of a professor out of the Department of Sociology at Brown. Created the program, and it was just really important to me, in the middle of the crisis, that marginalized communities were also getting the products and PPE that they needed. So those are the two that kind of stick out in my mind. But there's dozens now, and Mike, as you know, we're also starting to support schools that support kids with special needs, and that also is really important to me, because our children just need to get back to school, and if they do, we want to keep them as safe as possible.
Right.
No, absolutely. I think the biggest thing is, like, again, kids, anybody with a pre-existing health condition, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I've been in and out of a lot of places, and like, just some of employees won't even use what they're giving out to their customers, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's scary.
Yeah. Well, I think this, and obviously those companies that you're in touch with, Mike. But for us, to be honest with you, our ability to give during the height of the pandemic actually kept our team motivated, right? And so for us right now, it's like, how do we help other small businesses stand up? So, you have restaurants, bars, any type of small business. They didn't have a PPE fund. There's no additional budget available for, hand sanitizers. So unfortunately, quality and price and sometimes go hand in hand. And for us, within the New England region, we're trying to be incredibly, what I would call generous from a price perspective, because this is a nonprofit for us. So whatever proceeds we bring in, we put back into the community. So, those companies that need a little extra help can call. And those companies that want to just deliver, a higher quality product to their consumers can have something they can depend on.
Wow. It's such great info. Like, because sometimes people just don't know. People don't know this. They don't know it's available. They don't know where to find it.
Yeah.
They don't know what's in it. I think, like, this information, you've dropped so many little, like, knowledge nuggets on us. I think it's going to be so helpful, just from a consumer standpoint, like what to look for, what not to look for, where to find really great stuff. Like, maybe digging a little bit deeper into, you've helped us kind of dig a little bit deeper into what's in clothing that we wear, like a little bit, deeper around what we're using to sweat in every day. It's just, and I think Turtle's lip is like, I can't take her seriously. I think it's so special what you do, and I'm just so grateful for your product and your time. It's just, I could not, I've been wanting to get you on for a while now, and I'm so glad we made this happen.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Really appreciate it. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Mike? Or
No, I think kind of just like what Greg said, if anybody's in need to kind of reach out to Evolve by Nature or live clean _ go green. And
right.
no, seriously, I mean, that's the biggest thing is we're here to help, right, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, we all can do well by doing good. And, right now, I think we got to protect one another. And that's really the key right now. So yeah, if we can help, or Mike, if you can help in Gansett, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I think people should know that we're here, we have their back, and however we can help.
I love that. And what I'll do, Greg, too, and for Mike, I'll have the Evolve by Nature site in the show notes below. So for those who are listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube, all the information to get in touch with Mike if you're local, or learn more about Evolve by Nature and the story and the brand, and just read up on it yourself and just really get acquainted with this. And Mike can help take care of anything that you need.
Yes, I can.
And we're just so grateful for your time, Greg. This is
Absolutely.
so awesome to have the man, the myth, the legend come on here.
I don't think you go that far, but thank you.
We'd probably have motor oil on our hands if I didn't meet you six,
Yeah, exactly.
Like skin probably.
No, that was the problem. Like, your hands are just starting to like heal, then all of a sudden you use Purell, it gets in the crack, and you're like,
and it
son
burns.
of a...
It burns so bad. Oh my gosh, it's like getting it into a cut. It was awful. It was awful. I was like, Mike, this is going to be a long quarantine. But then you guys came along and saved the day. But we are so excited. And just for those who are listening, Evolve by Nature does such an amazing job. Amazing job, like with your social media, just educating. And you have so many awesome articles that you're featured in that you're always putting up there. And
fashion articles, Greg. I saw that.
Yeah, like I think it's so cool what you guys do. So I'll make sure to put the Instagram handle down below so people can follow it and
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. No, it's great. We have a great team that cares a lot about getting the information out there that, it's readily available, but unless you're, freaks like us that go diving in it, it's not easy to find. So I'm trying to make it accessible.
You don't know what to look for or where to look, but you guys just make it. It's very like easy to read and like look at and digest.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about the literature is it is user friendly.
Yeah.
Again, like organic chemistry, everything that you talk about simplified for users like me. Hey, I'll be honest, I need it to be broken down.
I need it broken.
And it is like we have this
Very
one
simple
deck of like the whole process of how this stuff is done from start to finish with pictures. And I think it's like the coolest thing ever.
Bring on the pictures.
Need pictures.
Dude, that's how I think in pictures, not words. So definitely pictures. It's all good.
Let me see.
Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Greg. We really appreciate your time. We do. And if anyone has any questions, please reach out to Evolve by Nature. Local Mike can take care of you. And we're really excited to have this episode with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Did it record?